Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to formally welcome everyone, including members of the gallery and the press, to tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Brett Cunningham, and I'm here as the Mayor of Golden Plain Shire Council. Tonight, this council meeting is taking place within the Linton Community Hub and is open to the public. This meeting is being live streamed in accordance with Council's governance rules, and I welcome any viewers joining us online. As the meeting is open to the public to attend, if the live stream ceases at any time, the meeting will still continue. I will now recite the opening declaration on behalf of all the councils of Golden Plain Shire. We, the councillors of the Golden Plain Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interest of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of Golden Plain Shire. Acknowledgement of country. Golden Plain Shire spans the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung and Eastern Mar people. Council acknowledges them as the traditional owners and custodians and pays its respects to both Wadawurrung and Eastern Mar elders past, present and emerging. Council extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Golden Plain Shire. We now move on to apologies and leave of absence. Are there any apologies for this meeting or requests for leave of absence, councillors? Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, a leave of absence from the 7th of April to the 23rd of April. Thank you.
7th of April to the
23rd of April, inclusive.
Right. Just need a seconder for that leave of absence if possible. Okay. Just a vote, all those in favour? Thank you, carried. Confirmation of minutes. Councillors, we have a resolution before us to confirm minutes of the scheduled meeting of Council that was held on the 28th of February 2023 as circulated. Can I please ask for a mover? Councillor Jepson. Second. Councillor Gamble. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Council's conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? If not, we'll move on to public question time. Public question time runs for 30 minutes prior to consideration of the formal agenda by Council. We consider questions received with notice from the public. I will call each person who has submitted a question forward. Please come up to the microphone. Just at the end of the camera.
Yeah.
Ask your question only as it was submitted. Any additional statements that have been submitted with your question are not to be read. I note that this is not an opportunity for discussion or debate on questions asked or answers given. Can I please ask if Eugene Grigg is here?
Yes.
Thank you. Eugene, can I ask you if you can please read out your first question?
Can I firstly thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the question.
Our pleasure.
In November 2021, I requested the bluestone gutters, channel and curb and concrete gutters be cleaned in Linton. In May 2022, the bluestone gutters and channel and curb were done. The concrete gutters have not. As there is no sewerage in Linton, grey water stagnates in some of these gutters. What is the date set for the next cleaning of bluestone gutters and channel and curb?
Thank you, Director Phil Josipovic will provide a response to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Eugene, for the question. Council received hundreds of requests for drainage and flooding issues in October and November of 2022 due to the storm events that we're all familiar with. There were at least 20 drainage related requests received for the Linton area, and the maintenance crews have been working to try and restore damaged roads and causeways to maintain access for the residents. As a consequence, the maintenance of street drainage in township was deferred, whilst the crews had to work on locations where flooding of properties occurred. We are, however, engaging contractors to undertake the maintenance works on drainage in townships and aim to have the proactive maintenance program to sweep streets and clear open drains in Linton Township completed before winter. The latest advice I had was by about mid-May, we'll get to clean all those open drains.
And
Second
secondly,
question, thank you.
when will the concrete gutters be cleaned?
And we'll do those at the same time.
So before May.
Yeah, around about May.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Can I please ask if Janet Hay is here? Good evening, Janet. Thank you.
Good evening.
Can I please ask you to read out your question?
Okay. May we please have a wall removed in the craft room? The wall measures 3760 long, 2800 high by 120 wide. The removal of the wall would give the craft group an extra 8 square metres of much needed space. Currently there is dead, unusable, wasted space. The craft group is constantly welcoming new participants, and we would like to add more workspace to better accommodate our members.
Thank you once again. The response has been provided by Phil, Director of Infrastructure Environmental Pacific.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Hay. Firstly, I guess as a tenant of at the Linton Community Hub, I would encourage you to ask these type of questions with our facility officer at any time, rather than having to wait for a council meeting. But that said, we did just complete a 12-month trial of a community management model within this building, and council will be determining the next steps in relation to the management agreements, including with your craft group, in a report that is scheduled to be presented to council in April. Council subsidises the base operating cost for the facility for the trial period, including cleaning and utilities, at approximately $15,000 per annum. And at this point, no commitment has been made to capital upgrades or renewal of the Linton Community Hub. However, an inspection of the wall will take place and determine whether there's any potential structural impacts. We need to identify whether it's a structural wall or just a dividing wall. And then funding for this work would also need to be considered as part of the upcoming budget deliberations, which will include with councils.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask if Ken McLaughlin is here, please?
Yes.
Good evening, Ken.
Thank you very much for allowing me to ask my questions, and welcome to Linton. So my first question is, the Northern Streetscape Plan was adopted in April 2022 after community consultation in 2021. The framework outlines that minor work elements would be implemented in 2022 and major work elements in 2023. With regard to the Linton component, what minor and major elements are listed against each, and of them, what has been completed? And for any outstanding, what is the schedule for implementation and completion of this plan? The design response for Linton does not appear to contain any major works. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask you, the question will be responded to by Director Phil Jacidovic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, unfortunately this project has been delayed for a number of reasons and not progressed as quickly as we had hoped. However, the funding via Berrybank Wind Farm remains secured, as is the council funding in this year's and next year's budget. Council is also anticipating that a new federal funding program will be announced shortly, which came out of the G21 delegation up to Canberra last week. And this project would fit within the funding criteria so that even more funds could be directed to the Northern Township projects. The minor works include replanting of the Meeting Street public furniture and bike racks, as well as an application for a speed limit reduction through the township and 2 pedestrian crossings. The major work identified in the framework is the entrance treatment to the townships, including the curbed out stands, which are estimated at about $150,000. Given the delay, a refresh of the implementation plan for this project is well advanced, and the other thing I want to point out is that it should be noted that pedestrian crossing installation is largely dependent on the speed limits of the roads, and given that council has applied for a speed reduction through the town from 60 to 50, which has now been approved, just a matter of time for Vic Roads to get out and put the signs up, which now means we can start commencing having those discussions with the Department of Transport. It is their road on the type of crossing we can have, and we anticipate to have that done by the end of this calendar year. In terms of some of the minor works, we've done some of the works with the bike racks, a little bit of footpath repair, but we acknowledge there's a lot more to do. And, like I said, with the implementation plan, we hope to get a lot of that stuff done by the end of this calendar year.
Excellent. Thanks so much for the response.
Second question, Ken?
Certainly. Number 2, I understand there was a commitment made to maintain the Sussex Street medium strip, which is the part that runs out the front here, of plants, weeds, etc., of approximately every 3 to 4 months, 4 times a year. Has this maintenance schedule been maintained in line with this timing, and is there any change to this schedule going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I'll ask Director Josivitic to provide a response to the question.
Thank you. Over the last 12 months, the medium strip has been maintained twice, most recently having the trees trimmed. Absolutely acknowledge that we haven't met our commitment of maintaining it 4 times a year. The main constraint is the Sussex Street, as I mentioned, is a Department of Transport, or what we used to term as a Vic Roads road. And to do any works, we need to prepare a traffic management plan and have it approved by Vic Roads. That process in itself will take anywhere from 2 to 3 months for Vic Roads to approve a traffic management plan. However, more recently, Council submitted an application for a memorandum of authority that allows Council to prepare and implement traffic management plans for certain works on Vic Roads that don't require Vic Roads approval. That application took 5 months for Vic Roads to approve, but we received that approval 2 weeks ago from memory at max. So now we plan to undertake groundwork maintenance at this site by end of April or early May, and moving forward we will schedule more frequent maintenance of this medium strip now that we don't need that approval from Vic Roads. So we will be trying to keep to that 4 times per year.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Can I please ask if Beth Glover is here?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, Beth. Can you please read the question?
Yes, Mayor Cunningham and councillors.
Thank you.
In an act of reconciliation with the Wadawurrung people who first inhabited this land, I ask permission of the councillors to endorse the area of Teesdale, where I live, to also adopt a Wadawurrung name. The entrance to the town to both have the name Teesdale and the Wadawurrung name displayed. This, of course, to be in consultation with elders of the Wadawurrung. Thank you.
A response to your question will be provided by Director Gray of Corporate Services. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Beth. The process for naming places is provided by the Geographic Place Names Act and the naming rules. Principle H of the naming rules states that dual names may only be assigned to geographic features and can't be given to localities. This is to avoid confusion for addressing and emergency services access. When naming new features and infrastructure, Council consults with traditional owners and considers use of traditional owner languages, such as the recently named Yaram Yalak Bun Park in Inverleigh. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Members of the public gallery, you are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. However, we will not be offended if you wish to leave and go home and maybe have dinner or spend some time with your family. Councillors, we now move on to the formal agenda. 7.1, Delegates Reports and Informal Meetings of Councillors. I refer councillors to page 6 of the agenda for this report. Any questions? If not, can I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Gamble, thank you. A second. Councillor Whitfield, thank you. Councillor Campbell. Thank you.
Thank you, Ned. As part of my delegates report, I firstly attended the Bannockburn market. It was great weather. Concerned that there weren't any fresh and fruit and vegetable sellers at this market, unfortunately, but I've been, apparently officers are making plans at the moment for more local and health wellbeing input into the market. More noted, additionally I attended the Teesdale Flood Study information session at the Teesdale Hall. That was a well-run event with large maps in the walls of the front meeting room of the hall. It was quite well attended by officers and consultants who were all kept very busy for the 2 hours. There was feedback from residents directly to experts on hand, which was really appreciated, and it was important feedback and many local history discussions, and sometimes a slight disagreement about how things where it happened, what it had. The input into this will be really helpful with determination of the flood overlays for better mapping into the future. I attended the Meredith Multi-Play Space Project with Michaela Settle, who the site at the moment involving a lot of heavy but it's all going well to be finished by late May, which is quite remarkable considering if you go there now and it's like full-on work site. Money was given, money from the council, but a significant contribution from the state government that we're thankful. I went to the Teesdale Community Hall Committee of Management meeting, and that was quite an eye-opener with the amount of, just understanding the amount of work that they engage in, and also to appreciate the amount of halls that we have right through the Shire, so how many volunteers and committee management people that are giving up a lot of their time to contribute back to their community running these halls. 20 to 30 of them, I think, across the Shire. I attended the G21 Sport and Recreation Subcommittee. This is prior to it becoming part of their health and wellbeing pillar for the G21. Part of that was a discussion about the Commonwealth Games, which was really interesting. The City of Greater Geelong have a dedicated officer called Sarah as a project coordinator just to facilitate this. And she was full of energy, and even though 3 years out and counting down she was. So one comment was made that Golden Plains Shire may be a possible host town. Be able to host teams from the different countries in our Shire. At the Bannockburn Southwest Industrial Estate opening with Christine Cousins, that marked an important stage of completion of infrastructure to benefit the business community and others locals in terms of jobs in the southern part of the Shire. I also attended the G21 Transport and Planning meeting, and most notably, is my time up or no? Yeah. Got it done. So I just finished this part because I think it's really important. The last one, Geelong Pride March and Rainbow Festival on Sunday, Johnson Park. Given the week we've had in politics, it's great to see so many community leaders there, including councillors from Geelong and politicians, Libby Coke and Christine Cousins, etc. So I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I attended the council listening post in Inverleigh along with a few other councillors. It's really pleasing to chat with the locals and provide answers and support where possible. And the rest is as the report reads. I was kept away from a couple of engagements due to medical reasons this week, so that's it for me. Thank you.
Any other councillors wishing to make a donation? Councillor Rowe, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr Mayor. Listen, I'd just like to report, I did attend the Maud Shire Stiglitz Residence Community Plan meeting on Sunday the 19th. The last community plan was one of 2011, I think, so they're just going through an update of that. And more importantly, I attended the 29th National Municipal Works and Engineering Conference. I'd just like to share this with my fellow councillors if I can, please, Mr Mayor. And certainly also I want to share this with our ratepayers that are here tonight, so if you can just bear with me, please. The 29th National Municipal Works and Engineering Conference 2023 was held in Bendigo. It was a two-day based conference, and it was based on the on meeting the climate change challenge. The first, what was I going to say? Yeah, and it detailed what municipal works professionals are finding themselves in dealing with these changes. The conference presented speakers that highlighted the facets of the breakthrough innovation and creativity leading change and the re-engagement that emerges in the response to these challenges. The first speaker was Dr. Mark Curran. He's a research scientist from the Australian Antarctic Division. Now, Dr. Curran leads the Hobart Ice Core Group, and has been involved in numerous research trips drilling ice cores in both Antarctica and Greenland. It is all about scientists understanding change, and over the last 40 years scientists have found out a lot. We can all learn from the past. Ice cores tell us what has happened in the environment over the period of millions of years, especially in Australia. The second speaker was Josh Howard. Now, Josh Howard is the founder and CEO of viral sustainable hand soap brand, Single Use Ain't Sexy. His businesses save tens of thousands of single-use plastic bottles from landfill by replacing them with Australia's first dissolvable hand soap tablets. So you just drop a tablet into the water, and after 20 minutes you've got foamy soap, and it's all in your existing bottle. He and the company are pushing ahead to do the same with a number of household and industrial products and eliminate single-use bottles by using a tablet form. Another speaker was Paul Gleeson, and he's the CEO of Wave Swell. He's doing a trial on sustainable electricity by using waves in the ocean at King Island. Clean and emissions-free electricity. There's no moving parts in the water. It's a 1,200-tonne construction of steel and cement on the seabed, and it's with an air-driven turbine. It works like a blowhole, to explain to you, above the coastline, and it only generates power on the air getting sucked in on the return trip of air. The company is moving ahead now to construct 1,000 kilowatt turbines off the coast of Australia. 1,000 kilowatts will service 1,000 homes. And they've got a 25 to 30 year lifespan, and it finishes up at the end like an artificial reef on the bottom of the ocean, and there's no damage at all to the environment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Owen. Councillor. Reach your time.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'll grant an extension.
Happy to give an extension?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Continue.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Kirby and Mr Mayor. As we all know, wind does not always blow, sun does not always shine. Wave energy is more reliable and a lower cost. David Jones, another speaker, is a technical advisor with Smarter Light Group. He was promoting a luminous light through photoluminescence. It's virtually glass beads that reflect light for a safer environment. It's very good for bike path edges, very good on the centre line of roads and highways to show the road is actually bending, and the car lights might not show the centre line up. It's good for warning signs in buildings when the power goes off, and photoluminescence is ideal to show exits and dangers, etc. when there's no other light. There's numerous other speakers talking on reducing the crash trauma by using recycled glass safety services, and it virtually stops the skidding on the road, and they've got services which create high friction, and they're used mainly at high speed intersections and school crossings. Another speaker was talking on tactiles at pedestrian crossings. These are run by LED lights on solar. It's like a grate full of small lights in the pavement at pedestrian crossings, and instead of looking up at the sign you see a little man, either green or red. They've got flashing little red lights on the ground for stop and green for go. The reason for implementing these was they've had a lot of accidents in Melbourne with pedestrians getting bowled over, and a lot of people have got their head down and haven't got their head up, so that's the reason for that. So it also creates less overhead power pole light, and it's better for the wildlife. And there's another speaker on new road service technology and sustainability, another one on environment best practice in municipal works, and there's another speaker on reducing CO2 emissions through innovative pavement design. And there's a specialist from Caterpillar talking on understanding mobile plant emissions and your carbon footprint, followed by demonstrations of industrial equipment. Thank you.
Very informative. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillors, anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll follow on from Councillor Ray there. I attended the conference a minute ago as well. I made a sore neck and a sore backside, but however, we're getting there. Very informative. I suggest anybody, any works staff need to go and have a look at it. I don't know if you touched on Downer then, but from Downer with the tar and cement and whatever, in the new road services, which is saving CO2s and things like that. So that was very, very well presented and as well recommended to go, and I'm very happy and grateful that Councillor Rowan attended. Also attended the Ballarat Regional Landfill Committee meeting, and that was at the well at Smythesdale. There's quite a few notes out of that. There was probably about 16 people there. The landfill at Smythesdale is to last anywhere between 15 and 20 years, and then when it's full it'll pretty single shift to Melbourne. The same as there's another one, I just forget where it is now. The cell capacity will take 325,000 cubic metres of landfill. The landfill costs about 4 million to construct a cell as well. The next audit for, I'm going to cut this back for extra time. Next audit is in July 2023. There's about 80,000 tonnes per year going into landfill at this stage, so it's quite a... The tour was very good. There's gases, we could smell gases while we were there, but they'll all be bottled up, which they're doing now, so it looks to be running in a pretty good shape to what it used to run. People can see the heap of dirt from the highway. Well, that's not landfill, that is only dirt that's there to bring down when it's dry enough to cover a cell that's already been completed. Attended the figure eight reunion on Saturday, which was the first one I've had since COVID. 56 people in attendance. Attended the Scars Old Girls picnic or dinner at the Ballarat Club in Ballarat. Very well attended. I did the Smythesdale Market last time where they had Mick Ellis. Some people here might know Mick. Unfortunately, Mick is not well, he's got leukemia. And he shaved his beard off. There was two others shaved their beard as well, so they raised $5,000 on the day, so it was a wonderful effort. I think they'll do it, because the mother must be going to go.
You're just about right on.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillors wishing to speak? Yes, Shire, thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a clash on a few items I would like to have attended this month, but did get along to the opening of the industrial estates in Bannockburn, or the next stage, which is seeing off all the drainage there. That's quite an interesting project from a personal perspective. That's one when I first got on council 6 odd years ago. That was something that was just in a priority booklet and nothing but dreams and aspirations, and I think the Shani's probably summed up there their appreciation to council itself and the officers that have done a fair bit of pushing and shoving to get that. There's a $2 million investment by the state government in that. That would not have happened without the state government's contribution to that. So from my perspective, sitting there the other week, sitting there watching that, it's just quite interesting to see it come from the priority booklets, get through, be seen, advocated for it. I know all the previous mayors have advocated for that over the years through that, and then to see it come to fruition. It's quite interesting to actually go out the back there and see now what's about to happen. There's a huge amount of demand in Bannockburn for that industrial type sort of thing, so I imagine once that all comes to full fruition and people moving in and that, there'll be a lot of businesses set off there really quickly. So that was quite good, and then just another point maybe for a brief conversation just regarding, I know I'm on a couple of mandatory boards of which I've tried to put on the council in this, but I've been denied in the past, but I do note that other councillors are putting them in there now, so maybe a conversation for a briefing about it. Other than that, it was a good month. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say how we had a great councillor host at the Inverleigh Township. It was very well attended, and I'd like to thank the residents for taking the time to meet with us and for their invaluable knowledge regarding the Inverleigh region. I'd also like to thank the residents in the district who supported the meeting held by the Rokewood Golf Club. Around 50 people attended the meeting, and there was some great ideas and initiatives to keep the club afloat. Even with some of the senior members staying on to help, it was a fantastic achievement on behalf of the younger members to step up and take up some of the vital roles within the club. So they did have another meeting after the first one where another 25 odd people attended. The golf club has an 80-year-old history, and I'd like to think it fitting to thank all the members of the past for their initiative with council in purchasing the land. Hopefully another 80 years of history will be made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Which was a very extremely busy month, which is in the delegates report. Just a couple of quick ones, if I can. Last week, recently G21 mayors and CEOs visited Parliament House in Canberra, where we met with 18 federal ministers and shadow ministers and their staff. The delegation visit went extremely well, and we will continue to engage with the Commonwealth Government over the next 12 months to emphasise broad business community and the requirement for support for local government. G21 is well regarded in Canberra at both political and department levels, and is the envy of many other regional bodies for its successful advocacy over the past decade. Attended the official opening of the Bannockburn Southwest Industrial Estate. So just quickly to add what Councillor Sharkey has said, and Councillor Rowe, it's going to open up, accommodate nearly 70 new light industrial businesses, which will attract more investment into the area, and of course will increase employment opportunities. Went to Sunday the 5th of March, went to the Inverleigh Dashhound Derby. Over the past 11 years, this day has become a must-attend event on the calendar. This event draws visitors from all across the region, and it does also inject economic benefit into the local businesses that are open on that day. A huge crowd was in attendance. Once again, a very successful event was held. Congratulations to the organising committee on a job well done. But the highlight for the month for me was myself and the CEO did visits to all the kinders throughout Shire. It was a great day, and we did acknowledge the work and the genuine care that all the staff take in being part of that. So, very busy month by the council group. Councillor Gamble, do you wish to close on that?
Just add one other thing.
Just one?
Yeah, this one.
That's right.
I had part of the Transport and Planning Pillar meeting I went to. I had the experience to visit the New Geelong Council building, the Wariki Nile, and it's really quite impressive and well worth anybody getting a chance to see if they get that chance.
Thank you very much. I'll now put it to the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Councillors, local roads, agenda item 7.2, local roads and community infrastructure program, phase 2 and 3 project updates. Councillors, I refer you to page 9 of the recommendation for this report. Are there any questions? If not, can I please ask for a movement of the recommendation? Councillor Whitfield, thank you. Can I please ask for a seconder? Councillor Gexon, thank you very much. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak towards the motion, please?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll move the recommendation as the motion. The recommendation has many parts, but essentially it suggests council move some savings from some LRCI funded projects in both phase 1 and 2 to other projects. There is a completion date of the 30th of June 2023 for LRCI projects, and officers have recognised an extension of time will be required, which has to be submitted to the Department of Infrastructure transport, regional development, communications and the arts. The reason for the time extension are the October and November floods and a delay in expert consultations. $170,502 from Phase 2 project savings will go to upgrade Derwent, Jacks Road, Snowgum Road, Reef Road, Cromes Road and Baringa intersection projects to cover a required overspend, and to the Meredith Shelford Road Stage 5 project, which is partly funded under the Phase 3 program. $250,000 from Phase 3 projects will be allocated to a disabled toilet facility at the Bannockburn Bowls Club, with the Bannockburn Bowls Club making a financial contribution towards it. The allocation also goes to existing Phase 2 Meredith public open space improvements. The projects requiring 6 months extension of time are the Lee River Junction viewing platform and the Lethbridge Lakes amenities block upgrade. Final approval for these changes rests with the department that I mentioned before, and the LRCI projects are extremely valuable to Golden Plains Shire, and the alterations proposed will maximise the community benefits. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Getson, would you like anything to add?
Yes, we feel some of that. Nice, thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Further to what Councillor Whitfield outlined, Director Joe Sipovich just previously informed me that there has been an extra granting extension of time. So because many councils all over Victoria have struggled with Australia, sorry, yes, for this grant scheme, and with various probably mainly extreme weather events that have held back a lot of the council's ability to implement these projects and having to divert resources to other areas and contractors being taken. So I note that the separate cases and circumstances as to why the projects were delayed. One of them with the Wadawurrung consultation for the boardwalk was that was an issue also with the sorry, I'll just backtrack a bit there. With the Lethbridge Lake there, it's subject to a land capability study that hasn't been completed as yet, but in progress. The amenities block there doesn't have a roof at the moment in the change room for swimming there. It is a swimming place when it's all operating well, but it's a much valued community area there. It's a gem in the crown of Lethbridge, so to speak, the Lethbridge Lake area. It's got, since I've been around, and it's undergone significant landscaping and barbecue facilities. So when this toilet block amenity is completed, it'll really bring it up to a much better standard than what it is at the moment, which lets the area down there. So, yeah, it's great that we've got so far with this, and it's I support the recommendation that we apply for this extension and variation, and I agree with the conclusion that, quote, best opportunity to expend the funds and maximise the community benefit derived from the approved projects, and that's what this motion endorses. Okay.
Any other councillors wishing to speak to the motion? Councillor Kirby, thank you first.
Thank you, Mr.
Councillor O'Neill.
Yes, this is the Local Roads and Infrastructure Program. So we've seen about $4 million come to our council regarding different projects that have been taken on board. This was in aid of getting councils back up and going after COVID. So this money's been injected into the councils for this reason. So it's really good to see that we've made savings in some areas, so we've been able to put money into other areas as we go. And I'm very pleased to hear that the government has recognised that we had major flooding and other issues that we just couldn't get these projects over the line before the end of this financial year. So I'm really pleased to hear that we can have an extension of time, because without this money, it's a lot of money that our council doesn't have to bring out of our own budget. So to see government hand this money over and to give us an extension of time is just fantastic. So well done to the federal government for allowing us to take time to complete these projects. Thank you.
Councillor Rowe, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll just be brief. Council has either completed or is on track to complete any of the projects funded under the LRCI Phase 2 and 3 programs. I will also be supporting the recommendations of this report as it gives Council the best opportunity to expend the funds and maximise the community benefit derived from the approved projects. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Any councillor wishing to speak against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield to close. Thank you, Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think everyone spoken really appreciates this funding stream. I suppose I'll just finish with a few of the projects in regards to open space infrastructure that are on the books and to be completed by June this year. So there's public open space infrastructure going ahead at Haddon, Linton, Meredith, Batesford, Inverleigh and Teesdale. They're just a few of the smaller projects that didn't get the big mentions, but open space infrastructure, courtesy of LRCI funding, it's really good. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any councillors wishing to speak against? If not, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. 7.3 on the meeting agenda, procurement policy update. Councils, I refer you to page 14 of the recommendations for this report. Recommendations that Council adopts the amended procurement policy and exemption procedure as attached. Any councils have any questions? If not, can I please ask for a council to move the motion? Councillor Sharkey, thank you. Can I have a second to the motion? Councillor Rowe, thank you. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. This one, councillors, as you'll appreciate, is fairly simple and straightforward. This is merely a policy update and something that we have to do on an annual basis. So obviously this offers us continual improvement as we go along with our day-to-day business within council in regards to procurement policy. So there is several minor updates that are outlined here, and with that, as you'll see through some of those, many of the changes there are references or referring back to the new Local Government Act 2020. So I think some very logical and revised changes that sort of neatens up this document, and with that, there's a few changes in there with references that will make the document more fluid, a more fluid policy going into the future. So very simple and straightforward, this one, councillors, and I'm very happy to move the motion tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Rowe, thank you.
I think Councillor Sharkey's knocked it up pretty well, but all I'd say is Council's committed to ensuring continuous improvement and strong compliance processes are in place for its procurement activities in order to achieve value for money and generate benefits for Council and its community. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
I'd just like to emphasise that this policy is central to day-to-day operations for the council, and it also, the actual updates are tabled on page 14 of this agenda. I'd also like to mention that later in the year there will be an overview according to our climate emergency plan, where this procurement process will be looked at, policy will be engaged in a process of updating again to help reinforce and embed the climate change strategy into the council procurement processes. So I'll leave it there, thanks.
Thank you very much. Any councillor wishing to speak against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Sharkey to close. Thank you, Councillor Sharkey.
No, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. No one speaking against the motion. I think that's fairly simple and straightforward.
Thank you very much. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Councillor 7.4, governance rules for adoption. I refer councillors to page 18 of the recommendation of this report, noting that no submissions were received on the executive draft, adopts the governance rules and authorises the Chief Executive Officer and the Mayor to sign the adopted document. Councillors, any questions? If there are no questions, can I please ask for a mover of the recommendation? Councillor Rowe, thank you. Can I please ask for a seconder? Councillor Sharkey, thank you. Councillor Rowe, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. These draft governance rules were placed on public exhibition from the 1st of March 2023 to the 22nd of March 2023. And no submissions were received. Minor changes have been made to the draft and the governance rules, and they are now recommended here for council for adoption. With the benefit of the last 6 months of operation, with the new provisions of the governance rule, further changes have been identified to improve the operation and increase the accessibility of council meetings. The changes have been made to Chapter 2 of the meeting procedures, and it's all attached. So, yeah. So all other chapters of the governance rules have been unchanged. Just a few outlined there with counting and the meeting procedures. That's all. So, thank you.
Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is again another simple and straightforward change here. We've obviously gone through the process there. I think as a councillor, you always hope these come back with a little bit of feedback from the general public to be able to consider what they may say, but unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, with regards to no community contribution to it, you have to then assume that the community is happy with the document. So very happy to support this, and no doubt it is a document that continues to change over the years. So thank you very much.
Thanks, any other councillors wishing to speak to the motion? Any councillors wishing to speak against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Rowe to close. Thank you, Councillor Rowe.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, the governance rules have been presented here tonight for us to adopt following the community engagement in accordance with Section 60-4 of the Act. So that's all. Thank you for the resolution.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 7.5, review of instrument of appointment and authorisation Planning Environment Act 1987. Councillors, I refer you to page 22 for the recommendation for this report. Recommendations in the exercise of powers conferred by 1474 of the Planning Act, Environmental Act 1987, and other legislation referred to on the attached consideration of appointment, Goulburn Shire. Resolves, so there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4. This is at item Z. Any questions? If there's not any questions, can I ask for a mover to the motion, please? Councillor Rowe, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Sharkey, thank you for that. Councillor Rowe, can I ask you to speak to the motion, please?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, this is pretty straightforward. This is just an update to reflect staffing changes that have occurred in the Environment and Open Spaces team. The appointment of authorised officers under the Planning Environment Act, it just says cannot be delegated and must be made by resolution of council. Thus is coming to us tonight. The instrument of appointment of authorisation of the Planning Environment Act 1987 was last reviewed and adopted by council February 2023. And the review of the instrument has now been completed and updated to reflect the staffing changes that has occurred in the Environment and Open Space team. It is recommended that council consider and adopt the revised instrument as shown in the attachment, so I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rowe. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Thank you very much. No, a very simple and straightforward one here.
and procedural zoning amendments.
Thank you, Councillor Shire. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Rowe to close. Thank you, Councillor Rowe.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank
Very
you.
straightforward.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, hands up before me. Thank you. Carried. Agenda item 7.6, contract for building cleaning services. Councillors, I refer you to page 25 for the recommendation for this report. Any questions? Councillor Rowe, thank you.
Yeah, listen, I've got a question. I did bring it up at the briefing meeting, but I don't know whether it's fully explained. But just in the recommendation, how we're awarding the contract to this particular business, it just says in there as an extensions with 2 by 1 year extension options. Will this be based on the nominated schedule of rates? Can someone tell me, please?
Thank you. Can I ask Director Tracivity, please?
It will be based on the same terms and conditions as the original contract is, so as priced, so schedule of rates per building, hourly rates and consumables as such. But they'll be indexed. There's a provision in the contract for the price to be indexed each year based on CPI.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Kirby, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Josipovich. I noticed in the scoring description there was no one-on-one interviews with either 3 or the 4 top contenders for this contract. Would another line item be feasible considering the amount of money and time spent going through this paperwork? An interview with the director of the companies would also be a good way to explore their capabilities and what would be expected of them and what they could also bring to the table for these or other contracts. So do you think that's a feasible thing to have an interview with any of the contractors?
Councillor Josipovich, could you get a supply response to Councillor Kirby? Thank you.
As a rule, we typically don't have interviews unless there's 2 tenderers that are quite close and hard to split. We might have interviews. We do rely, so everyone's assessed on exactly the same basis on their tender response. So it's only if we need clarification from tenderers, we will do that in writing, so it's all recorded and auditable. But interviews will do as an exception rather than a rule.
Thank you. Councillors, can I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Whitfield, thank you. Can I please have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rowe, thank you. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, I move the recommendation as the motion. I'm pleased to support the evaluation panel recommendation and award the contract of Golden Plains Shire Council RFT 21-2022 building cleaning services to Bowen Cleaning Services for the sum of $231,994.92, exclusive of GST per annum for the initial term of 3 years with 2 by 1 year extension options. The contract includes supply of consumables and cleaning of 11 council-owned or leased buildings all across the Shire. 15 tenders were submitted, with 1 being non-compliant. 14 remaining were all reviewed by the evaluation panel, which is a significant undertaking, but by reviewing all 14, it demonstrates an exhaustive search ensuring that we get the best available option for this contract. Having so many tenders submitted also indicates how competitive the cleaning service industry is at the moment. The evaluation process is extremely thorough, and I believe councillors can have confidence the best tender has been chosen. Scoring was based on capability, capacity, local content and price. The panel noted that the 2 top ranked suppliers were both capable of providing services for this contract and were the 2 highest scoring suppliers with only 1.25 score difference between them. However, the final weighted score placed Bowen ahead due to its lower price being offered. This report pertains to the awarding of this contract, but it doesn't explain that previously there were 5 contracts for this work across the Shire, and that by consolidating the works into 1 contract, there are significant savings for the Shire. And I think congratulations to Director Josipovic and his team for adopting this strategy. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to that?
As long as Councillor Whitfield's done a good job there in presenting this, all I'd like to say is we've gone through a very exhaustive tender process, and this bail and cleaning service has met councillors' tender requirements for the building cleaning services, and it's considered the best place to provide these services to Golden Plain Shire.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Anyone else now? The councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to point out, I support the recommendation and motion as it is, but there was a rigorous and professional panel measuring all 15 applicants for the tender with the scoring system again played in Croatia, including things such as a credit assessment and occupational health safety reports. There was a 7-person evaluation panel, but I'd like to note there was no actual sustainability environment background people of this 7. I think that's a little bit unfortunate, and the outcome is that there's one provider across the Shire to take on this contract, where I've been informed that there were options available for a north contractor and a south contractor, which makes a lot of more sense for me, but because as brought up in the last week with the latest findings of the International Panel on Climate Change, it's really important that we do everything we can to reduce carbon emissions, and we've got major emissions with transport in our area. So council has a leadership opportunity and organisation to do things through procurement policy as this, but also in other ways to bring down those carbon emissions as much as we can. So going forward, then I'd like to see that these considerations are weighted higher in the scheme of things. We are waiting for a new, almost to be appointed, hopefully a coordinator in the environment space, which would probably sit on that panel normally. Also, with the revamp of the procurement policy, I expect to see practical outcomes that make common sense in a small but meaningful and leadership sort of way. And with statements or approaches such as, quote, carbon emissions generated in conducting the service or delivering the product, end quote, to be of higher weighting than what is evidenced in this particular contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Feedback's been made. Any councillor wishing to speak against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor.
Thank you.
Sorry, my apologies, Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. Without going into the contract itself, I'm just concerned that the contractor does not open up a business within our Shire. I'm hoping that they'll put their mouth where what they've put on paper, and I think that we've had this before with a contract that we've passed on, and they have not opened anything in the last 12 months in our Shire. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this does come to fruition, and that we're not having people driving from one end of the Shire to the other to fulfil the contracts, because we know that it's a big Shire, and when you've got people travelling from one end to the other, you've got a good hour and a half virtually of travelling, and I just think I just hope that it works, even though it's saving the Shire money. We've got to make sure that it works well for the residents as well as our community buildings that are being serviced by these contractors. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other councillor wishing to speak for the motion, against the motion, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield to close.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm not sure that Councillor Kirby spoke against the contract. She just put forward some concerns. And I'll take on board the questions you asked earlier about interviews, but I wonder if an interview could be swayed by presentation skills rather than hard data and evidence. But that's just me wondering. Also, I'll add that safeguards for quality of the work are built into the contract in the form of KPIs and reportables. If the contractor were to go through extensions, they are to prepare and submit a new schedule of rates with also for any price variations that they might request. But should this motion be carried, Mr Mayor, I wish Bowen Cleaning Services as well.
Thank you very much. Councillors, I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, agenda item 8.1, notices of motion. Council meeting start time. Councillors, we have a notice of motion for consideration tonight submitted by Councillor Whitfield. The motion is that Council change the start time of the scheduled 2023 Council meetings adopted at the 20th of December 2022 Council meetings to 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. Are there any questions, Councillors? Councillor Whitfield, will you move the motion?
Thanks.
You have 3 minutes to state the motion if you wish to indicate.
Sorry, clarify that. I'm introducing.
Introducing, sorry, Councillor.
Thanks. So the motion is to change the schedule 23 council meetings adopted at the December 2022 council meeting to 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. I believe we've experienced the 7 p.m. start time twice now, and I haven't seen that it is advantageous for staff or councillors that live at the opposite end of the Shire to where the meeting is being held. I don't believe that the extra time that's been...
Councillor Whitfield, sorry, just before we go further, you need to sit because you're actually...
I need to sit, I've started talking.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's always going to happen.
You have to go there. Do we have a second there?
Yeah.
You have an instruction, that's fine. We have a second to the motion, Councillor. Well, we can. Councillor Whitfield, sorry. Continue.
Continue introducing.
We can speak to the motion now.
Thank you. Okay, so it's my belief that it's beneficial for both councillors and staff to have the meetings at 6 p.m. Based on past meetings, a 3-hour meeting duration is often likely. Add an hour and a half travel time, and that means staff or councillors will be home by about 11:30 p.m. This is unreasonable for those that need to work early the next morning. I've benchmarked our neighbouring councillors, and they are the Pyrenees at 6 p.m, Colac Otway at 4 p.m, Geelong at 6 p.m, Surf Coast at 6 p.m, Moorabool at 6 p.m, and Ballarat at 6:30. I appreciate one of the reasons 7 p.m. was resolved at the December meeting was to allow for more time for councillors to meet prior to a meeting. The concept of having time for councillors to socialise and build relationships amongst themselves and with senior management has merit. I'm not convinced that immediately prior to a meeting is the appropriate time for that. I know my focus is on the upcoming meeting. We have briefings for 10 hours per month, which is more than enough time for councillor discussion. There are also other options available for councillors, such as online Teams meetings or a community event such as the Listening Post, which is scheduled for this Saturday here in Linton, and the Farmers Market Saturday morning in Bannockburn. The 6 p.m. start time has worked for this group for almost 2.5 years. The next group of councillors may find a time more suitable for them, but 6 p.m. works for us. The meeting time was moved from 6 to 7, but the dinner time remained at 5 o'clock. We were done with dinner by 5:30 today, leaving us with an hour and a half of waiting time. Councillors signed up for this, and we will spend the time as required. But that's an hour and a half of time staff could be spending with their families, not waiting for us. The 7 p.m. time has been tried for a second time tonight. I believe that it's the second time it's been unsuccessful. I've no doubt the light agenda for tonight's meeting is a result of the 7 p.m. start time. With all meetings recorded and available for viewing by the public at their convenience, the only factors left to consider for start times are the councillor cohort and the staff. The later the start time, the less convenient for both. Let's show some consideration for the staff and move meetings back to 6 p.m. I'll sit there. Thanks.
Thank you. As the second councillor, Dan, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Thanks, Nick. I support this notice of motion. I appreciate the intent of the original position of trying to have greater social exchange between councillors. But I do believe there are problems with having the meetings later, given their geographic size of our council Shire area is means that that people from opposite ends of the Shire have to travel an hour at times to get from their place of residence to the council meeting and back, and that can be a big problem with later meetings going up to 10 o'clock, and you know, and so so it becomes, to my mind, a health and safety issue. To be honest, as a councillor, I don't have so much trouble travelling that distance at night time. It's probably the adrenaline with the meeting and things, but thinking about the officers, then tiredness can be a factor on high-speed roads, night wildlife, etc. I just mentioned my preferred position was for 2 p.m. originally to avoid these problems, and my belief that just with one afternoon off, it's not to do a council meeting, it's not a great sacrifice, and we already had like 2 full-day meetings this month as councillors, and people watch the meeting in their own time and convenience generally, but I accept that my idea hasn't got up in the past, but I'm happier to support Councillor Whitfield's notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak to the motion? Any councillors wishing to speak against the motion? Councillor Wade.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say, councillors made a decision at the December meeting to change council meeting times from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. for a number of reasons. I think it is totally irresponsible as a councillor group to do a backflip so suddenly after only 2 meetings. I don't think enough meetings have been held to better understand and measure the performance of 7 p.m. meetings. As a group of councillors, we elected to a later time to give all councillors more time prior to a meeting to come together for discussion. Also, it gives staff the time to travel to the north of the Shire after a 5 p.m. finish at the Bannockburn office. We need to hold meetings for 6 to 12 months before making this decision. Councillors made the decision to hold meetings at 7 p.m. So please have regard for the opinions, the beliefs, rights that were made in December, and allow more time to evaluate this. Furthermore, I consider the CEO is not happy chappy with the 7 p.m. start decision announced at the December 2022 meeting. If it was a wrong decision in December, why wasn't the motion rescinded by Councillor Whitfield? I just want to go on to mention 2 elements of Councillor Code of Conduct. 4.5 I'll read out. The councillor must treat all persons with respect and have due regard for their opinions, beliefs, rights and responsibilities in the performance of their role. And 5.1, a councillor must do everything reasonably necessary to ensure they perform the duties and functions of a councillor effectively and responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Any other councillor wishing to speak against the motion? Councillor Kirby, thank you.
Is there anyone for? Was it two against?
Sorry, no, I'll ask.
Sorry. Any councillor wishing to speak for? No councillor wishing to speak for the motion? If not, councillor Kirby wishes to speak against the motion.
Thank you. Yes, it was changed to 7 p.m. just so that we, as a council group, we're not rushed. Every meeting that we've had at 6 o'clock, we've had to fly in, we have a quick meal before we get going. If the meal's running late, it's just been crazy times. So to allow an hour and a half before a meeting, I think would be a reasonable time. One of the reasons was, for the future, we're looking at women wanting to get on council. You know, today we've had messages from women leading locally. Not one woman has stood up in the Shire and put their hand up to go and do a course to become our next leaders within Golden Plains Shire. There's 2 years before the next elections. Okay, we could drop it back to 6 o'clock. Is that a suitable time for women who might have families, who might be trying to finish work? Our meetings were originally 4 o'clock, and yes, we did accommodate a former councillor, a woman councillor, to have the meetings changed to 6 o'clock. So this was just a way of saying, all right, let's not be so rushed. Let's make sure that, especially if women would like to get into council, because we know that they have the main chores in the household. You know, they're the cooks, they're the ones that get the children ready for bed, for school, for their meals, etc. So it was just to make sure that we were allowing women that little bit extra time if they were to put their hand up to become a councillor. Around the group, I think it is nice to be able to sit down, have a meal and just discuss what's coming up. It doesn't mean that we're making decisions, it just means that there could be something on the agenda that we just need clarification from with our other councillors. 7 o'clock is a time, I'm not preferenced one way or the other. I think either way we've got to make it an hour and a half before our council meeting, not 1 hour before and we're so rushed. If you're running late to get from one end of the Shire to the other, who knows, there's roadworks, there's kangaroos, you know, Councillor Gamble talks about health and safety. Yes, we all have health and safety issues, but you know, this is a big Shire and everyone has to make the effort to take precautions, slow down if they're driving at night time. Put, you know, get better lights on your cars if you're having trouble seeing. Put roof shoes, shoe roofs on your cars if you're worried about kangaroos. So at the end of the day, I think that we've got to worry about what we want to do as a council. I'm open to both ends of the scale, but I just want to think about women for the future and what might suit them as well.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to close? Sorry, speak against?
Yes, I'm a little bit too late here, but I'm just one of those lovely people in the chamber. These people work till 5 o'clock. They can't get here at 6 o'clock. And congratulations on coming. Thank you.
Councillors, before I close, anyone else wants to speak?
Yeah,
for the motion, Councillor Shire?
Yeah, thanks. I will outline what I am conflicted on this notice of motion. I don't support the notice of motion that's been put. It's not a good look for us, councillors. This came to us in December last year. As Councillor Whitfield outlined, we spend 10 hours briefing days some days. And as Councillor Rose said, it is our responsibility under 4.6 as councillors to sit round and discuss and come to good outcomes. Let's all be perfectly frank, the time slot of 7 p.m. was never discussed in that 10 hours. Never discussed, never spoke about. It came about on the night. That doesn't reflect well on us at all. I don't support this motion from the governance point of view. and how it reflects on us. I didn't also support Councillor Rowe's notice of motion last month, but also puts us in a position where we are going to do a backflip on a previous decision. We shouldn't make decisions on the run or on the fly, and after 6 years on council, I can assure you, I still to this day have never seen a good decision come on the run. On the night of December last year, which was only two meetings ago, I spoke to a number of councillors afterwards about a rescission motion. I foreshadowed a motion on the night to give us the option of 6 p.m. The debate of 6 p.m. versus 7 p.m, it shouldn't even be had, because it's so illogical to be sitting around here for the past hour and a half, filling up bombs, doing nothing. In the last hour and a half, with all due respect, I'm probably the only councillor here with really young children. I've received a couple of texts from my kids here tonight, wanting to know when I'm getting home, or if I'm coming home, or what's happening, or not so much what's happening, with a couple of wants. I'd love to be at home. We would have finished up an hour ago, and I'd be home with my family. So whilst I respect Councillor Kirby's comments, as a father of 3 young children, being home earlier in the evening is far better for well, with all due respect, Councillor Kirby, you go and argue with my wife about getting home late from council meetings, and I can assure you, neither you or I will win that argument.
Councillors?
I don't like what we're doing here. We're putting the CEO in an uncomfortable position both last month and this month. It is the CEO's responsibility, and in my personal opinion, this motion shouldn't have been accepted, nor the last month's one, but it does put the CEO in an uncomfortable position to have to accept this motion to be at a council meeting. It's not good governance, it's not good process. I won't be doing a backflip from my decision last December. But councillors, I don't want to see us getting in a habit where next month there's another notice of motion for 19 past 6 or another time. Let's make a decision. Let's spend the 10 hours of briefing, discuss them, put forward these ideas. Let's make a decision, stick to it, and not do a backflip.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Whitfield, can I ask you to
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll try to address each of the points that the councillors have put well before us. In reference to governance, comments there from Councillor Sharkey. Rule 41.7 of the governance rules says the CEO may reject. It doesn't say it must reject a notice of motion in this regard. 18.2 says council may change the date and time and place of any council meeting and must provide notice of change to the public. It says it there. It's not going against governance rules by asking for a change of date or time. Don't forget, our neighbouring councils don't start at 7 p.m. They're closer to 6. Councillor Kirby's comments. Future councils can set their own council meeting times to suit the cohort of that councillor group. Apart from Councillor Sharkey, we don't have young children to prepare meals for. I'm suggesting the meeting time change tonight in this motion, moving the start of the dinner time to allow for more time prior. That's a whole other issue if that was to be moved to accommodate for more appropriate time prior to the meeting. This motion is about recognising improvements to procedural matters, just as we do with the governance rules and other policies. Appreciating that 6 p.m. is clearly a better option than 7, I believe it would be a disservice not to raise this earlier rather than later in the year. As far as Councillor Rowe said, why didn't I rescind it on the night? I wanted to give it a go. I've given it a go for 2 meetings now. I've had feedback from staff and others that it hasn't been suitable. That's why I put this motion forward. Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think I'll wrap it up.
On the buzzer. Thank you. Now I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? 4. Those against? Motion's carried. 4. Thank you. Councillors. Thank you. Councillors, as we have no petitions, no urgent business or confidential business, that concludes our meeting for the evening. I declare the meeting closed at 8:22 p.m. I thank council officers and especially the community for joining us tonight. Safe travels home. Thank you.